50,000 years ago, a twisted ankle was a death sentence. Today, you ice it and sit on the couch. But back then, you didn't have a couch. You didn't even have a floor. You had a tribe that had to move every day just to stay alive. If you couldn't keep pace, you were asking them to choose between their survival and yours. Every mile they carried you was a mile they couldn't hunt. It sounds harsh, but leaving someone behind was the smart move. That's the version of history we're usually told. Survival of the fittest. But in 1957, deep inside a cave in the Zagros Mountains of Iraq, we found a skeleton that shouldn't exist. They called him Shanidar 1. And the more they looked at him, the worse it got. His eye socket was crushed. He'd been blind on that side for years. His right arm was withered to a stump, likely amputated or paralyzed since he was a kid. He was living with one functional hand, in a world where you needed two just to keep a fire going. Then you look at his feet. Massive, healed fractures meant every step was a gamble. As a lone wolf, this guy wouldn't have lasted a week. He couldn't hunt, he couldn't gather, and he definitely couldn't run from a leopard. But the bone growth tells a different story. He didn't die young. He lived into his 40s, which 50,000 years ago was ancient. For over 20 years, this tribe decided he was worth the extra calories. In a world where every scrap of meat mattered, they chose to feed a man who couldn't help catch the kill. When he finally died, they didn't just leave him for the scavengers. They dug a grave. And this is where the mystery gets messy. Around his body, archaeologists found clumps of pollen from wildflowers. Yarrow, cornflowers, hollyhocks. For decades, we called this the flower burial. People loved the idea, a Neanderthal flower funeral. But then the skeptics moved in. They pointed to the Persian jerd, a desert rodent that drags flowering plants into its burrows. They argued the flowers weren't a funeral rite. They were just ancient trash left behind by rats. Suddenly, the whole thing went from beautiful funeral to rodent storage problem. But even if you take the flowers away, you're still left with the bones. The rats didn't heal his arm. The wind didn't carry him over the mountains for 20 years. They didn't keep him alive because he was useful. At some point, this stopped being about usefulness. We usually think civilization started with the farm or the wheel. Maybe civilization started much earlier than we think. It started the first time someone decided to stay behind with a person who couldn't walk. We didn't survive because we were the strongest. We survived because every once in a while, somebody chose not to leave. I'll see you in the next one.